Please join the town clerk for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Where are we going now?
Apologies. It's our March 18th meeting. I'm still holding on to St. Patrick's Day. All right, we have privilege of the floor this evening. Community group known as Beautiful Saugerties would like to share some of their thoughts about the development of Winston Farm. We'll call the representative from Beautiful Saugerties to the podium.
Susan Murphy, Beautiful Saugerties. Citizens for Beautiful Saugerties has taken a keen interest in the proposals advanced by Saugerties Farms LLC for the 840 acres known as Winston Farm. The owners have requested that you, the town board, create a planned development district of those 11 land parcels to replace the current zoning. This request, if granted, will have profound implications for the town. New York State law requires that the results of such proposals be studied in a process called a State Environmental Quality Review, or SEQR. The applicants in this process hired reputable experts from many fields who reported on aspects of the plan in their areas of expertise. The applicants submitted a document called a DGEIS, a draft and generic environmental impact statement. The original DGEIS was determined to be incomplete by you, the town board. In May 2025, a revised DGEIS was submitted. It consists of 240 pages, plus appendices totaling over 1,000 pages, and additional traffic studies of another 1,000 pages. Hard to read and absorb so much information. But we have had considerable time and have reached some conclusions. Tonight we will focus on the western portion of the property, some 500 acres. Our review of the information is complicated by the fact that the property owners changed their request of the town board. Originally, they proposed maps with different zones on those acres and indicated what they anticipated would be built on those zones. You and the Saugerties community could evaluate how that would fit in. Subsequently, they revised their request to just having the property rezoned as a planned development district with a master development plan to be considered at a later date. We are sure this is not in line with the SEQR process, since it is impossible to assess the impact of just rezoning the parcels. We all deserve to know what they intend to build on this land. But let's put aside for now this fundamental error in process. The SEQR process did produce an enormous amount of information about the site, even if the owners withdrew most information about their plans. We will rely exclusively on the reports of the owners' consultants to describe these rocky and forested slopes and their value. Their words, their statistics, their maps. Winston Farm consists of 840 acres just west of the southbound thruway interchange. The land slopes from the east to the west, rising about 300 feet. According to the DGEIS submitted by the owners, quote, approximately 500 acres of the western portion of the site are heavily wooded. Furthermore, quote, the USDA information indicates that areas of shallow rock and rock outcrops predominate the western portion of the project's site. Tonight, we will examine those western slopes of about 500 acres.
I'm Janet Asian. I'm asking the question, what can we learn from the owner's consultants about the value of those 500 wooded and rocky acres? First, we examined the report of the LaBelle Associates hydrologist hired to assess the availability of groundwater for the proposed development, including the ability of the aquifer to recharge. LaBelle Associates reported in the DGIS that Winston Farm lies over the bank of an aquifer. They conducted extensive tests of a well on the property to draw water from that aquifer. The tests found that current private properties, both north and south of the site, pump water from this aquifer, and that the test well was able to pump 220 gallons per minute from the aquifer. The water from the test site well satisfies New York State standards for drinking water, so clearly this aquifer is a valuable source of water for the community. The prospect of pumping water at the rate of 220 gallons per minute begs the question of whether that can go on indefinitely. The aquifer needs to be continuously recharged. We shall see that the wooded slopes are the primary source of this precious resource. The well test was partly designed to determine if the aquifer relied on recharge from the beaver kill. The test confirmed that it did not. To quote from the DGEIS, ruling out the beaver kill as a direct source supporting the test well leaves the bedrock aquifers adjoining the Bakeman Valley aquifer as the sustaining groundwater source. Their hydrologist, Russell Urban Mead, confirmed this in his September 17, 2025 comments to the town board. The main route by which water enters the Bakeman aquifer is on the high western ridge that rises above the aquifer. He said, water is recharged from the exposed bedrock areas on the west side of the valley. The DGEIS provides a map of the recharge area. On the isolated Winston Farm area of the map, we can see that most of the western portion of the property has the black diagonal lines that designate the recharge areas. To a large degree, these are the same areas that constitute the wooded slopes. So our first conclusion is that those slopes function to recharge the aquifer. Next, we looked at the owner's discussion of the role of the western forested acres in sequestration of carbon from the atmosphere. In the DGIS, the owners state, carbon sinks are areas where carbon is stored on the site. The primary carbon sinks on the Winston Farm property are the vegetation and the soil. They further state that the U.S. Department of Agriculture Basal Area Guide was used to estimate 100 trees per acre for the forested land, and data from the USDA Forest Products Laboratory shows a range of carbon sequestration per tree of 22 to 48 pounds of carbon per year. Using these calculations, we learn that the 500 forested acres will contain an astounding 50,000 trees, and that those trees will sequester between 500 and 1,000 metric tons of carbon each year. So the second conclusion is that those forested slopes act as a significant carbon sink.
Janelle O'Rourke. We next examine the report of the wetlands on the property. Michael Norwicki of Ecological Solutions surveyed the property and prepared a map of wetlands and watercourses existing on the property. The following map was submitted to both the New York State DEC and United States Army Corps of Engineers. His report explains that, quote, wetlands are legally protected because of the functions they perform and the benefits that society reaps from those functions. Wetlands functions are chemical, physical, biological processes that wetlands naturally perform as a matter of course. End quote. The map shows a web of 19 wetlands and 4 watercourses throughout the property. The Beaver Kill is the main watercourse and is located near the eastern boundary. Most of the remaining wetlands are found within the wooded slopes. Mr. Norwicki reports, quote, these wetlands are typically broadleaf deciduous forested wetlands. These are red maple and spicebush dominated swamps with dense understory of skunk cabbage that is seasonally inundated. These systems are surrounded by undeveloped upland, mature second growth forests, and agricultural fields. Functions and values provided by these wetlands include groundwater recharge, flood flow attenuation, sediment trapping, nutrient removal, production export, shoreline stabilization, wildlife habitat, recreation, educational and scientific resources, uniqueness, heritage, and visual quality. The last major area we looked at is closely related to the wetlands report, the biodiversity on the wooded slopes. North County Ecological Services reported on their biological survey of the site. They visited Winston Farm 26 times over a year and report on the contiguous undeveloped areas. They note the varied types of woodlands present. Here they map what they call the forest communities, where different species of trees predominate. Using standard definitions of ecological communities, they determined there are over 156 acres of hemlock and northern hardwood forests, around 115 acres of chestnut oak forests, and many smaller areas of other forest types, such as red maple and white maple swamps. They sum up the value of these upland acres, quote, on-site ecological communities possess large areas of contiguous undeveloped areas, are comprised of forested upland and palustrine wetlands. The lack of development on site allows the formation of large tracts of habitat that is utilized by a variety of wildlife species. The undeveloped lands altogether provide foraging, nesting, resting, breeding, and cover habitats for indigenous and migratory species. As a result of the multi-season survey conducted in 2023, the consultants physically confirmed a total of 177 species of flora and 132 species of fauna on the site. The inventory revealed 18 species of mammals, 96 species of birds, 16 species of amphibians and reptiles, and 2 species of fish on the site. This chart names all of the species in the categories I just mentioned. The species in red are endangered or of special concern in New York State. The owner's experts demonstrated that the wooded slopes protect the aquifer, sequester carbon, feature a web of wetlands, and are home to a wide range of both flora and fauna.
I'm Mark Brodkin. I'm going to describe the preparation for development. If the owners proceed to develop on the wooded slopes, what would be required to prepare for building? There are currently no roads on those slopes. They would need to get in heavy equipment to clear the roadways, and that would compact the soil, which immediately reduces the ability of water to migrate through that soil. Untold numbers of trees will be cut. Material will be trucked in to create roadbeds. Culverts will be installed to allow for storm water drainage down the slopes. And then the paving can occur. Trenches will be required along the roads to bury water lines and install fire hydrants. Buried sewage lines would take sewage to a water treatment plant. Electric and telecommunication lines would be installed. Once all this infrastructure was in place, foundations could be dug and buildings erected. This is a lot of catastrophic disturbance to the very rocks and soils that these slopes that allow the aquifer to recharge, the forests to capture carbon, and the ponds, swamps, and forests to maintain healthy and contiguous habitats. How does the owner's environmental impact study assess the impact on the slopes? Having described and assessed the slopes of Winston Farm in some detail, the consultants in general do not discuss the impacts of building. There is no discussion of the result of building on land that serves as a recharge area for the aquifer. There is no calculation of the reduction of carbon sequestration. There is no estimate of the number of trees to be removed. There is almost no recognition of the difficulties of building among all these wetlands. Only North Country Ecological Services commented directly on the impact of building. Development may lead to the fragmentation and contiguous open space and natural habitats, potentially disrupting ecological connectivity. That bears repeating. Development may lead to the fragmentation of contiguous open space, my emphasis, and natural habitats potentially disrupting ecological connectivity. I'll refrain from my own editorial comment on that. Quite the understatement. Building roads and houses on the wooded slopes would definitely lead to fragmentation of open space and natural habitats. That seems evident to all of us.
I'm Carol Towner. Given the potential impacts on these wooded slopes, we need to examine what might be built. Although the owners do not propose building quote-unquote at this time. In the DGEIS, 11 alternative plans are examined. Here we see the sponsor's preferred plan. It's in quotes, but it's noted that this is the sponsor's preferred plans. The dark green areas are coded as forest. Note the network of roads in the northern portion of the forested slopes. What do they prefer to see built there? They would like to create 78 estate lots, consisting of about 7 acres each. Then, an additional 76 single-family houses. And the last proposed development on the slopes would be 100 vacation cottages at the eastern edge of the woods. Quite a lot of building on those slopes. We already know that these slopes constitute a significant portion of the aquifer recharge area and function as carbon sinks. Let's see how this development would fit with the wetlands their expert mapped. We good? Okay. Here, we overlaid the wetlands map over their preferred plan. You can see that the plans and the wetlands are completely incompatible. Completely incompatible. And their own submission concluded that, quote, future development within the Winston Farm PDD may result in the conversion of portions of currently undeveloped land to built uses, resulting in, this is still a quote from their submission, resulting in the reduction of open space and potential changes to the site's rural character. This may diminish the visual and ecological value of the landscape, this is thin, and reduce opportunities for passive or informal recreational use, close quote. Another massive understatement. This sums up the information provided by the landowners and their own consultants. The seeker process requires that they propose ways in which they will mitigate adverse impacts. They specify, quote, at least 50% of the site's sensitive areas will be preserved through the dedication of permanent open space or conservation easements, close quote. But the wooded slopes alone constitute 60% of the property. And other areas such as the Beaver Kill, its tributaries, and its floodplain must also be protected. The grasslands provide their own habitat for wildlife and provide treasured views of the Catskill Mountains. Having proposed development that would disrupt hundreds of acres of contiguous forest, the DGEIS suggests, quote, by incorporating greenery into the built environment, the site promotes a healthier, more resilient, and climate-adaptive community, close quote. Here they have gone beyond understatement. Planting a bit of greenery would leave the property less healthy, less resilient, and less climate adaptive than it is now.
Here is what we must conclude from this. The owner's consultants demonstrated that the wooded slopes are valuable and should be protected. They serve many functions in the environment, including recharge the aquifer, capture carbon, web of wetlands, and a variety of ecological communities, flora and fauna. The owners invested over $4 million to purchase this land and would presumably like compensation if these 500 acres of wooded slopes are to be preserved. Our local newspaper, Hudson Valley One, reported in September 2023, quote, multiple sources claim the Open Space Institute is in negotiations to purchase 600 acres of Winston Farm for nearly $10 million. But while rumors abound, no one representing either the landowners or potential purchasers are saying anything, unquote. Was this offer made, and if so, why did the owners reject it? We think the Saugerties community deserves to know. This would be a wonderful opportunity to preserve those wooded slopes, protect the aquifer recharge area, sequester tons of carbon every year, protect the multiple wetlands, and preserve a valuable ecological habitat and its flora and fauna. If this offer is not on the table, the owners and the town board should pursue other avenues to conserve this land. But what the town board should not do is grant the request to create a planned development district at this time. The owners have chosen not to disclose what might be built there or what would be off limits. In Appendix B, they have a laundry list of permitted uses that begins, quote, commercial and non-residential uses include community centers or clubhouse, retail sales and services, breweries, distilleries, wineries, food service and catering, health clubs and fitness centers, medical clinics and after-hour services with or without pharmacies and labs, art and craftsman studios, centers, galleries, museums, schools, and similar facilities, riding academies and stables, planetariums and aquariums, golf courses, mini golf, driving ranges, and similar uses. Veterinarian animal services, including daycare, clinics, kennels, petting zoos, breeding and boarding. Other uses include technical, vocational, and educational schools and centers, excluding colleges and universities. Professional offices, business incubators, including co-working spaces, labs, and shared facilities, and governmental uses. That is only the first of 8 such lists of permitted uses. It appears that if you created the planned development district, the owners would be able to sell off pieces of Winston Farm for almost any use. You, as the town board, have the responsibility and the opportunity to say no. The owners can propose a master development plan if they wish. You can facilitate a thorough review of it with plenty of opportunity for public involvement and comment. But such a plan must start with the conservation of the 500 acres of precious forested slopes.
Thank you. Does anyone from the board have a question or comment they would like to pose? If you're a member of the public, do would like to have a question or a thought share? I appreciate you folks taking the time that you did. I think it might be helpful to some folks' understanding to share my understanding of where we are. I believe between the consultants there has become a very mature understanding of the environmentally constrained areas on the property. I expect that when we get farther through this process, that will become clear to everyone that those environmentally constrained areas have been acknowledged in a thoughtful way. This, however, is still a process in work. The DGIS process is still working towards maturity. We anticipate getting a final package back from the developers at some time in the near future. And I can also confirm, I have no idea what the numbers are, but that open space is still at the table in talks with perhaps taking control over a part of the project, or at least participating in protection of some of the open space that we all would like to see done. The feedback that I get from the consultants is encouraging to me. I think as this goes through, it is becoming more and more clear, and there's certainly been a significant acknowledgement of those environmentally constrained areas. And when we get to the next phase, we can have a more constructive conversation about it. I was allowing you to ask questions from the folks.
No, I had a question for you.
Okay.
After hearing what you said, aside from the ecological issues that are being presented, what about the impact on the town, a small town of Saugerties, and how it's going to destroy a lot of the character of the town, the ability to live in a quiet, rural place? Are those considerations?
Of course they are, and I'm not going to give a lengthy answer about that, because I ran myself out of time. I have, in past conversations, shared my thoughts about that. This project is not a give or a take, in the sense that we could say no and it goes away forever. There are a lot of familiar faces in this room. We are on a 15-year cycle with Winston Farm. We get a proposal that the community doesn't like, we rally against it, it goes away, and then something else comes back. Here we have a unique opportunity because the developers are local. They have seen that cycle happen many times, and they're partners in this. So as we work through this, they're listening to you folks, and they're listening to the concerns that we're sharing, and they have hired high-quality consultants, and we have hired high-quality consultants to check the work that those consultants are doing. And there's a natural tension involved in this. I think that's healthy. We aspire to get the best project and the best use of this land that we can. And I don't think that falls outside of the goals for the folks that own the property right now. I think they want to see this property used in a positive, constructive way as well. And I will share this, and then I'll stop. The Hudson Valley is one of the hottest housing markets in the country. Pulte, Toll Brothers, they build thousands of units all over the country, and they have powerful legal teams. And I believe in some capacity we've been insulated from that because the housing market in the Hudson Valley has not been what it is today. And if we don't do well with this project and the current zoning stays in place, and Toll Brothers or Pulte or one of the large national developers show up, or a regional developer, and wants to exercise the rights under the current zoning, and it's in here, I'm sure you've all seen it, builds houses from the western border of the property all the way down until you get to 32, and then there's commercial malls, which are an expired land use so far as I'm concerned. So that's certainly not in our interest either. So given this opportunity, given that we have local folks working with us, let's do the best we can and get a project that we all can tolerate. I'm going to try to be quick.
Can you be any more specific about what's going on with open space and what they're discussing?
I can confidently say that open space is at the table, weighing proposals with the ownership.
You don't know much about
I don't, it wouldn't be,
Okay.
yeah, I don't have any more knowledge than that I can share, but I can say that they are definitely at the table and still talking. Yes, Mark?
I just want to ask a question because I've heard you mention this before and it's a little confusing to me. And sometimes I'm slow on the uptake, I'll admit to it. You've spoken before about the possibility that someone like Pulte or Toll Brothers can come in and put in a modern day Levitat, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they can possibly do that if the property is owned by someone else.
Well,
If you make it sound as though they sweep in here with all their equipment and start putting up homes, but the property is not theirs to do that. So my question is,
so
I can't
I'll
quite
just
follow
throw,
that.
okay, so let's just say this process we're engaged in for the past 4.5 years fails. The land is owned privately.
Yes,
They've invested considerable sum of money in it.
they have.
I doubt they're gonna be like, okay, we tried, we'll just dedicate it to the town and walk away. They're gonna wanna get some return on their investment. And who's gonna show up? Amazon? I wouldn't like that. Pulte or Toll Brothers? I wouldn't like that either. I think there's a real opportunity. We have to, I feel like there's a component of this moment with these folks who live with us to do this better than we can doing it with a national builder or someone else. And I do fear the event where, okay, we tried and we failed, or we take a posture that's not cooperative and they walk away. What comes next? I doubt it will be the same conversation or dialogue we've been having now. And that's my fear, Mark. That's my fear. I could be wrong, but I do believe that would be the case, and I don't want to be in that scenario.
So is that something that's been conveyed to you, that if the plan
No.
doesn't go?
No, absolutely
Okay,
not.
I mean,
But we've this is the second ownership group that I've worked with regarding Winston Farm. The prior ownership group, Greg Helsmortel had so much foresight in so many ways, and after the failure of the casino proposal, those owners were very upset. That would have been a windfall for their family. They felt like they had been bullied by the town board. They felt like the town collectively never supports anything for Winston Farm. And in their minds, they felt like they had been good stewards, and that wasn't reciprocated. So Greg agreed to meet with them and talk about, hey, the community has some serious goals for this property too. And this is dear in all of our hearts. I was on there when I was a young man, not welcome to be there, but I enjoyed it. It's kind of a mystical thing because most of us don't have access to it. And I think one of the common goals we all share is let's create an access opportunity so maybe we could hike and enjoy the property too. But during that process, we found money from the Hudson Valley Economic Development Committee, and we had charrettes in the community, and we did it at the Saugerties High School auditorium because they were very well attended. And going through that process, we came up with the 2009 document, which I think most of you are aware of, that outlined goals for the property: public access, a job opportunity, protection of open space, many of the same things we were talking about today. And that project stalled when we exhausted the funding that we received from the Hudson Valley Economic Development Group, and the Shallers would not. We actually found a number of grant opportunities, but they were going to be responsible for about 70% of the DGIS process. And they did not want to do that. They felt that the town should bear that cost. And that kind of fractured positive relationship we had developed at the time, and it stalled the project. The property sat idle for most of the time since then, and now these folks came in. And when these folks came in, they took the next step. We've done the DGIS. We have more data about this property, probably more than any other one in our town, certainly, and maybe in the entire Hudson Valley, which is great news. It's been studied as by the village during New York Rising for a potential capacity of the aquifer back then. There's been a lot of efforts to try to get a positive use for this. And as uncomfortable and the tension that lies in this is the process to get to the next level. And I feel I am willing to go through this process and experience it and try to get a positive outcome versus a fight with an aggressive developer, whoever it may be, either for housing or warehousing or some other use that we may not appreciate, who is more willing to put a legal team in front of us than come and listen to our concerns as a community. And we're going to have more of this, I assume, at some point this year, because we expect that new data to be in, and we'll have a conversation about what that data tells us. Yes, Mark?
What is this currently zoned as?
I think it's medium density residential. And that's,
Winston Farmers,
I believe it's medium density residential. I think in the build out, if you look at it, there's, I forgot the term for it, but there's an example in there of housing development with commercial on 32 and 212 and housing all the way back to the end. And none of us want to see that. I know from the comments you folks just shared, you do not want to see that. I don't want to see that. A modern version of Levittown is kind of an expired model just as much as malls. And we can do better, we know that. Here's an opportunity that I believe we can do better. And I think I'd rather do it with the partners that I see when I'm buying coffee or gas than a suit sent here by a large company.
One more if I can.
Did I miss anyone else before I answer? Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Well, actually, it's two. Oh my God, what is the name of the committee? The Conservation Action Committee proposed some conservation uses on the property, and is that on the table because that is a potential protection against the situation that you're talking about? And before we go to that, I just want to clarify, like Mark's point is really, the owners have to be desirous of Toll Brothers or somebody buying the property in order to get in that situation in the first place. But getting back to the conservation easement thing.
We can't hear you.
At some point, I get the question was a follow-up on Toll Brothers and the tolerance a little bit of the owners to continue to fund and engage in this process. I don't know what that is. They have to speak for themselves.
Okay.
I don't foresee that they have infinite resources to stay engaged forever. And we want to try to make the most of this opportunity what we can and get a successful outcome. I mean, the stakes really couldn't be much higher. This is the largest parcel in the Hudson Valley.
and it should stay that way.
Well, someone's going to have to buy it and preserve
Well,
it as is.
They bought it
Or
for
they
$4
have to be
million,
whole.
and they won't sell it for $10 million.
I don't know if those numbers are correct.
Okay, well,
I
that's
have
what
no
was
idea if
said
those
before.
numbers are correct. And I will say they spent a considerable amount of money on the documents that have been developed. And I don't know what their number is. We're pretty far into this. We're only 4.5 years in, which is okay, but it's not going to go on forever.
So the conservation overlays,
Yep.
is that something that's being considered?
The advice of the Conservation Advisory Committee?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like I said, I do believe, and I get this from our consultants, that there has been a consensus around the environmentally constrained areas and what would be an appropriate way to use those and protect those. I don't know what that looks like yet. When we get the stuff in front of us, we will all know. All right. Okay, Lanny.
My name's Lanny Walter, and I was the chairman of the Winston Farm Alliance, which was organized in 1990. And the community, Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, rose up and said, no, we don't want it was a casino initially, to come into this community. There would be radical changes in the throughway operation, and it was a beautiful demonstration of how we can stand together to fight this thing, fight that thing. And we weren't satisfied. The world wasn't satisfied. And then other people fought to put
Tire burning facility.
an Indian, no, the first one was an Indian place, and then they wanted to put a casino. And those were two big fights that took place. And I just feel like I should say this, because this community has been very faithful to this parcel of land and its existence and its potential for us to enjoy. And I think that spirit was shown today by these wonderful people who came forward. And let's hope that that spirit will carry us through to a satisfactory conclusion. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to, I'm always available. You guys can reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to answer individual questions. At this point, we're going to move on to the rest of our meeting. So we'll start with public comment. Each speaker will get 3 minutes. Janet Oxayan. Janet, let's move to the podium so that you're addressing the board. So, any,
Oh, that.
yeah.
I'm Janet Oxayan again. I just want to say, I totally agree that rezoning this property could be brilliant, but as we have just presented, it needs to be rezoned so that open space is given a priority for all the reasons that we just said, but if for no other reason, if people don't care about carbon sequestration or biodiversity or wetlands, the recharge of that aquifer. The western woodlands are the source of the recharge. So they have to be protected. It doesn't make any sense to build on them because then the aquifer wouldn't get recharged properly. We took the figure of 500 acres from the DGIS that was submitted by the owners of this property. However, the CAC said that the western slopes consisted of 550 acres, and then they said that there was another 63 acres that consisted of the beaver kill and associated wetlands. And then there are the overlay areas. I have no idea what that acreage may be. But if you add 550, which is the CAC's number, and 63, you get 613, and if you divide that by 843 acres, total acres, it's 78% of the property. Beautiful Saugerties has been using the figure 73.5% for a couple of years now, based on other documents, town documents, etc. I won't go into those. But it's like our figure 73.5% is beginning to look actually conservative. And I just want to emphasize that this open space, shouldn't be part of a negotiation. It's not like we'll say some of it, or as much as we can, or all of it has to be saved. It's like physics doesn't negotiate. It's the part of the property that's environmentally essential to the recharge of the aquifer and many other uses. It shouldn't be part of a negotiation. It should simply be accepted. And then there's the other issue of how much of that, how much water would actually be available to anybody who develops property. 26 gallons per, sorry, I can't remember the number, but the 220 gallons that gets pumped is not what a developer of the property would be able to use. It would be much, much less, it would be closer, well, the 26 gallons could be negotiated, but I believe somebody else may be speaking to that, so I will close my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Reese?
Mom, the typhoon is too dangerous. Everyone go call them.
Good evening, my name is Elizabeth Reese. I live at 67 Elm Street in Saugerties, where I've lived for over 20 years. I come to you tonight to follow up from the previous town board meeting of March 4th, when I brought my experience going to visit with the Comprehensive Planning Committee to discuss their role related to the battery energy storage systems. And tonight I am again raising several concerns about process, transparency, and the integrity of the ongoing review. When I went to the Comprehensive Planning Committee, I noted that the plan supports renewable energy in general terms, but does not make a distinction between renewable energy generation and battery energy storage systems, which are fundamentally different land uses with distinct operational, environmental, and safety considerations. I also recommended that this distinction be clarified and the secret principles such as full environmental review and avoidance of segmentation be explicitly recognized. After reviewing the conversation, I'm concerned by some statements that were made in the Comprehensive Planning Committee meeting, indicating, quote unquote, supports the project straight away, as well as discussions about preparing recommendations to the planning board regarding this specific project. At the last town board meeting, there was acknowledgement that the two processes are occurring in parallel, review of this application and broader developments. The overlap is concerning. Given these unresolved process questions, I am requesting the town enact a temporary moratorium on large-scale battery energy storage systems, including for the current applicant, who has not had vested approval at this time. This is not about the merits of the technology or supporting or opposing any particular project. It's about ensuring the process is transparent, the comprehensive plan is applied in a balanced and accurate way, and the environmental review is conducted in a manner that is legally sound. I request that the town board clarify whether advisory committees are being asked to weigh in on this specific project, how communications and deliberations outside of public meetings are being managed.
Okay, but that one was yours.
And I would request that we have a transparent and well-structured process that is essential to maintaining public trust and ensuring that an eventual decision is defensible in a court of law. Thank you.
Martin Steinberger, I'm sorry.
Hello, my name is Martin Steingesser. I live in the village here, and I want to address an experience of polarization that sometimes we feel during these different testimonies today, but most especially during the battery issues on previous meetings I've attended. This is very new to me, and I'm experiencing this in an odd way. I have some questions for you. One is, I think you mentioned, Mr. Costello, that you had heard the presentation for the project that we sat through for an hour each of those who were supporting it from different angles and aspects of the project. That was very impressive. But I thought you also said that you'd heard them twice before. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 9 hours. You have been subjected to those views, and they make a very impressive, argument for the project.
Well, cut yourself short. You make a pretty good argument yourself.
Excuse me?
You make a good argument yourself.
Yeah, but now you had 9 hours exposure to them, but we get 3 minutes. So this is another issue I want to bring up. I also want to touch on this idea, not an issue, of polarization, that if we have an opposing opinion, that it tends to start to feel like you, they. I'm so impressed by it. I really mean this as a compliment. Your incredible ability to summarize some of the issues, but particularly with the battery issue, it feels very slanted to me toward the project. So I feel that I would like to address the idea of discretion for time. I think the 3-minute limit in place, that's all right, that was my walking stick. I'll pick it up afterwards. I would like to suggest that when you feel somebody is making, as that last woman was, some very good points, that it was obvious that she hadn't completed the thrust in an intelligent way of what she was saying. Why do we have to hear a bell and panic and try to get to the last points we're saying? Why can't you just use some discretion and allow that, because you can judge that about us. And you can be wrong or right, but I don't sense that. I sense that bell's got to go off in 3 minutes. Just like that.
Just like that.
And in my case, I think it's more warranted because I seem to be wandering a little bit. Now, there's one other thing.
I'm worried you can't do that to me.
There's one other thing about the polarization I brought up.
I know, but
I just want to remind you
Yeah.
that we're not here to oppose you when you are making important decisions, and those decisions are for all our benefits, yours and ours, together.
Thank you.
When we come up to oppose something, we are trying so hard to give you more information and ammunition.
I understand.
Yeah, so
I have to cut you
my,
off, sir. You know, let me do this to you.
Yeah.
I feel so bad, but I do have to finish your last sentence, please. You already used your 3 minutes, and I know this is going to be a problem because the other folks have to give them equal opportunity. And if I don't,
no, that's the point of this.
I
You're not getting
understand,
it, but
but
you're
we-
not getting it.
I do, and it pains me to cut you off, and it
We
pains me
could honor
to cut
your,
off Mrs.
we
Reese
could
too.
honor your
If I
use
don't
of
have
discretion.
a standard, it's just going to be mayhem. So I apologize, but we have to maintain a standard. So, but thank you, and I apologize. If we don't maintain a standard, when someone is saying something I like and I let them ramble on, that's not going to be fair to someone who's saying something that
No,
I
I'm not
may
saying you should let people ramble
I
on.
can't.
I am.
I don't find your comments offensive at all, and I enjoy listening to you, but I can't let you continue. I apologize. Thank you. All right.
You're welcome.
So, Dia Monsbach? Dia, you're still here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening, I'm Dia Mansbach, and I live in West Saugerties.
I got it.
Tonight, I'd like to go back to the beginning on the BES issue. Someone asked at one of the early meetings why we need so much electricity. I'd like to try to address that.
Use the mic.
Why we need so much electricity, and I will be talking about that. There are two main reasons as I see it. One is that New York State has required that by January 1st of 2030, oil, propane, natural gas appliances must be replaced with electric ones when they reach the end of their natural life. Also, that progressively higher percentages of electric vehicles are sold as new vehicles, required. Electricity is not necessarily better unless it's truly renewable. And we are far from that, and the proposals being made are far from that. The increasing grid capacity does not help the environment if it's toxic in extraction, in content, or in waste products. So-called renewables are polluting large swaths of unmolested land across the state. I call this ruining the environment in the name of saving the environment. The only true renewables are hydroelectric, and geothermal, and there are some new technologies emerging. The other big reason for the increase in grid electricity need is AI. Did you know that one GPT request of 100 words results uses more than a pint of water and 0.14 kilowatts of electricity? And why is the increase in AI? Why is there such a big increase? So that people's jobs can be replaced, but we have no public policy plan for unemployment or income, and data collection for every aspect of our lives, which was very well illustrated by the Ring debacle at the Super Bowl. Every purchase, every phone, every computer, facial recognition in all the big box stores. I have one more sentence.
Okay, finish it.
All have to be processed by AI. These facts raise a lot of important questions. Why are they not part of the public debate?
Thank you. Paul Rubin?
My name is Paul Rubin. I'm a professional geologist and hydrogeologist. I've talked extensively on the need to protect the best interests of some 9,000 residents of Saugerties, with emphasis on water supply and drought protection. I've discussed the reasonable use doctrine that addresses the fair allocation of groundwater resources and an assessment of potential significant adverse environmental impacts associated with dedicating the lion's share of the town's Berry Valley aquifer to a single commercial enterprise. This aquifer is important as a backup water supply during drought conditions, as well as natural incremental growth within the town and village. They have provided rationale and a calculation documenting that this project's fair share of groundwater is 26 gallons per minute. The project applicant has not broken down specific project components, their individual water demands, and the cumulative project water demand. Thus, there is no documented basis for determining total project water demand or whether they're legally and practically have access to what they need. If an applicant does not specify all project components, their individual daily water demands, the total daily water required for the entire project, and the ability of the aquifer to meet twice the documented average daily water demand, the whole application should be tabled. Importantly, no serious and well-planned development project can or should be advanced in the absence of a very detailed tabulation of all specific project components and their respective daily water demands. To do otherwise would negate the concepts of prudent land use planning and aquifer protection. Furthermore, the lack of specific detailed project components and knowledge of their daily water demands would jeopardize both the available water resource as well as the water resource relied upon by other aquifer users. Tonight, I am providing the board with a detailed example of the type of water use breakdown that is missing from the applicant's documents. If all the components of the proposed project require more than 26 gallons per minute, the project advancement should be halted. Consider that the average single-family home relies on well water yields of some 5 gallons per minute. So 26 gallons per minute, their fair share of Winston Farm property equates the equivalent of 5 homes. This is not compatible with the proposed project scale. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Sanchez.
Good evening, thank you for letting me speak tonight. This is on the storage, battery storage. I didn't have a whole lot of time to go over all the details about the sodium versus lithium. There are both pros and cons to this. I think a lot of people would like to see the sodium because it is safer. Like everything else now with new technology, it still has some ways to go. The basic, there's a lot of pros to it. The basic pro is that it's safer. It actually costs less. The technicalities as far as the density and how much energy and all those other things that versus the lithium, it's just better. Lithium, they say, I guess the only advantage that I know of is that right now it's cheaper, but it has a lot of other safety concerns. So my proposal would be, I'd rather not see this be built at all, but if we're going to do it, to just hold off and let there be sodium. I think people would be a lot happier with something that's safer and better for the environment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Richard Azoff.
Hello, Richard Azoff, 9 George Sickle Road, Saugerties. I just want to, I guess unlike some of the people who have been speaking, express my strong support for the battery project as has been presented in the couple of presentations that I've attended here. Like probably everyone in this room, my electric bills have been skyrocketing every month. And I know that this battery storage facility would not result in itself lower electric rates for me or for other people in the room, but from my understanding of the presentation, a series of battery storage facilities would have an impact on electric rates because it would allow electricity to be stored at low peak times. So I think that there's no magic bullet for electricity usage, but this is as good as I think can be had at the present time, and I encourage the board to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Rummel.
I just wanted, okay, you can hear me. I just wanted to, as I recall, these young men made the point that there's a shortage of electricity in Long Island, and that's why we're bringing batteries up for storage here. Am I mistaken? Anyhow, no, but anyhow, and this issue of electric shortage, I know for a fact that when people have solar panels put on their roofs, there's an excess. I had solar panels put on our house, we did, before I sold it. And we were making more than enough, and the company was, I mean, they were getting the excess. I forget how it worked, but, I worked for Green Mountain Energy. Ever hear of them, Green Mountain Energy? But anyhow, they're a clean energy company. They were large, having a lot to do with putting up the wind towers, the wind energy. And I was helping to sell that, and I had conversations with many interesting people. And this one man from Long Island, and if nothing else, the guy has a big house, large roof. A company approaches him, and for free they put solar panels all over his roof. And he's getting free electric, and they're getting an abundance of electric to sell to other people. And when we put, and going back to putting panels on our roof, I was driving through Saugerties and realizing, my gosh, look at all the people with panels on their roofs. I'm thinking, how much excess electric is this? Probably quite a bit. And there was the matter of, there are articles, videos of these storage units that have caught on fire. And this stuff's nasty toxic. And was it 2 years ago? There was a forest fire in Canada that not only came down to this area, but was going further on down south. I think my girlfriend in North Carolina saw some of it. Yeah, I obviously, needless to say, I'm quite deeply concerned about the safety. There's still some serious problems, and we can't afford these kind of errors.
Okay,
Matt?
thank you.
Yep.
All right, that concludes the list of folks who signed up to speak. Is there someone who did not get a chance to speak who would like to address the board?
Yes.
Yep, can you come to the podium?
Gaetana Charlante, good evening. I wanted to say in reference to Winston Farms that I did hear a presentation, actually it was by Paul Rubin about 4 months ago. And Fred, you indicated that if there was a water shortage, there was always the possibility of drinking water from the Hudson River. And I want to remind you that in the 1950s, you know, we were all encouraged to not stop drinking that nasty water. And also that the DEC recommends that we don't eat fish that spend the year round there. So that is not a feasible solution for me, and I think for most of us here. Thank you.
Thank you. There's before we go back to your seat, there's a group, I think they're called the G6, or the H6, the Hudson 7, I'm sorry, I think they're Hudson 7. Communities in the Hudson Valley who extract water from the Hudson River for municipal purposes. And the context of why I said that was, we are geographically the same size as Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has about 700,000 people. We have a static population of about 20,000 people. We absolutely do not want to look like Washington, D.C. We are proud of our rural character. But we have more water supply than we would reasonably ever consume. We have the Hudson River as a potential alternative resource. We have wells that were developed by the town in the late 60s, early 70s that tapped the Esopus Creek as a potential municipal water source. We are geographically close enough to tap into the town of Ulster, who is still obligated to buy surplus water from when IBM was there. They have the capacity, whether they would be willing or not, to sell it to us. And we have aquifers beyond Winston Farm that hypothetically could be tapped to support a larger population. I say that with comfort because I don't think our community wants to turn into a metro area. We like who we are, and we like our rural character, and we like knowing our neighbors, and I don't foresee a situation where we would ever want to tap all those water resources.
That was the context of why I brought that up.
Okay, I just want to say that even though you may have studies and data that show there's communities that are drinking the water, Hudson Valley is also known for very high cancer risk. So, I'm
Fair point, and I'm just, it's doable, there's modern technology that would make that water consumable, but I'm not advocating for that. I'm just making the point that we are blessed to have a relationship with.
I moved out of Saugerties after having lived here all my life in January 2010. And 2 years ago this month, I moved back. But the first thing I saw, all 4 of my kids were lifeguards down at Saugerties Beach. Okay, so I have fond memories of it, even though it was a teeny tiny little thing and stuff. I'm like, what is this construction here? You can't, when you're crossing the bridge from Berkeley Heights over, you can't even see part of the. I'm like, whoever thought of putting homes on the side of the creek? And I just thought, whoever's idea that was, it just seemed insane to me. And then I went swimming once in this summer, and I noticed nobody was there except somebody trying to fish. And then somebody told me, oh, nobody swims there anymore. It's disgusting. It's not, it's polluted and everything. I'm like, what's going on? I was going for 14 years and this is what's happened. So when I hear this stuff about Winston Farm, it's very disconcerting because I see what can happen. Just in 14 years, I've seen other places that I feel like are compromised or being compromised, and I just hope that doesn't happen with these new up and coming ideas. I know the important thing is this. We all know that. That takes priority over everything. Health, environment, and everything, and nobody can argue because it's just a fact of life here, and at least here. I don't mean Saugerties, I mean just life in general. But I really hope that it doesn't happen, these things don't happen. I hope we preserve the good that's left, because there isn't a lot of it. That's all.
Thank you. Everybody need it back?
My name is Mary and I live in Saugerties. Last name is Pocik, P-O-C-S-I-K. This is only the second town meeting that I've attended. The first one was really heavily about BESS. It was the one where all the presentations went on. I was not convinced that that facility is safe. I think there's a high risk of fire that could be very toxic. I think it was a very one-sided presentation. I agree that, there's opportunities to look at sodium-ion batteries, kind of not be the first in line to do lithium when we know that there are these potential high risks. But the other reason why I'm mentioning it is because when you think about the proximity of the Winston project with the BESS project, my question would be, how much has the value of that land potentially gone down? Because I don't know how many people want to buy a home that's, on 7 acres, 75 estate homes, basically right across from a BESS plant. So, I guess my question is, or my observation is that perhaps the value of this land will go down because I don't know how many people would want to spend that kind of money to live that close to something that is such a fire hazard. So perhaps there are opportunities for environmental groups or other groups to actually approach the developers, because in my opinion, if that BESS project goes in, the value of that property goes down dramatically.
Thank you.
And our houses.
Did anyone overlook anyone?
Okay, can you hear me? Because nobody heard me last time. My name's Linda Krause. Last time I was here,
I brought up an interview that you had done with David Gordon back in April 2016. And the question to you was, how can the board encourage economic growth? So I'm just going to read the last few lines. Your answer was, by going through the planning process in advance, we're making those properties available for the industries the community is generally accepting of. The zoning book that we're not going, the zoning book describes that we're not going to host some type of industry, like a chemical company that could pollute our water or pollute our air. Do you still feel that way today?
Don't want to interrupt your time to speak, so if you have.
That's my
Yes.
question.
We have the answer to my, yes.
That's your,
Yep, I do.
and you don't feel that has anything to do with the battery plant, with the chemicals there?
Yes, I feel confident that there's a new fire code in here. I feel strongly that our zoning efforts over the past 20 years have made Saugerties sustainable and continue to make Saugerties sustainable. Obviously, we're not done with our work here, and we're trying to anticipate future development. This one came from nowhere. It came in September. And in addition to that, I was giving you your time now, and I'm not going to have it back and forth either. So when Beth shows up, the building department was asked, is this an allowable use? The building department came to the conclusion that under the current zoning, this was a utility project, and it was allowable in the industrial zones in our town. That letter stands. It's being challenged at the ZBA right now, and whatever the outcome of that will be, and I will stand by that either way. The question for us as a community is, currently, BESS is not allowed in any other zone but the industrial zone. And this body and members of it are spending time to figure out, is that the right solution for our community, or do we need to rezone and consider BESS in other parts of our town? BESS doesn't stand alone. We have lithium-ion batteries with us, probably everyone in the room. I haven't bought a power tool that has a cord in 20 years. I have a car with an electric battery. It parks in my garage when I had one. We live with these devices. Absolutely, you could go on and you can see the catastrophic failures of the early generations of batteries. None of those were developed under the new fire code, and we have to wait to see if that's going to be a successful venture or not, and if they can confidently do it. But I trust the folks that we have who are overseeing the planning on this, that they are going to do their diligence and make the right decision based on the zoning that exists today. As we move forward, there'll be plenty of opportunity with the public to come and share their thoughts about if this is appropriate in other ways, and if so, how. For folks that attended the meeting, this is a pretty widespread use. They showed examples of it being used in residential capacities. They showed examples of BESS being used in semi-industrial commercial applications, and then also the utility scale. But there's a broad way that BESS can be employed. Also, one of the challenges that commercial accounts have is they have the same rates that we do as residential customers to the utility, but they also pay a demand charge. So for commercial users that use higher demand, they pay per kilowatt the additional charge to make that demand possible. That's why they showed that large office building with a BESS battery, because with that BESS battery, now that facility can pull energy off the grid at night, store it during the day when there's ACs running and there's a high demand for energy consumption in that facility. That battery will come in and offset those demand charges. So savings for that are substantial. And as we migrate more and more towards electric cars, one of the prohibitive factors in level 3 charging is the demand charge that comes along with it. So it's going to happen that someone's going to want to attach a battery to level 3 charging station because they can absorb energy when it's cost effective, and then when people are driving and traveling, they can dispense that energy at a more economical way. I understand how it's going to be part of our life in the future, whether the technology is matured enough to allow it in other areas outside of our industrial area, I don't know. And whether the determination is going to be that this support the determination that the industrial zone will allow electrical utility remains a little bit to be seen. I don't want to prejudice those boards that are working on that. They should do their diligence and go through whatever process they feel is necessary to make a conclusion that they will make at some point. But until we know those answers, it's an abstract question to present to us.
Well, I appreciate.
I gave you your time, though.
I know, can I?
But now I don't want to do a follow-up. I told you I wouldn't do it back and forth.
But that wasn't my question.
Well, then I asked you before I answered, did you have anything else to offer? And you said no.
Well, I thought you were gonna answer the question. That
I
wasn't
did.
No,
I gave a lengthy answer.
That wasn't my question.
the mics that we were
Okay. Did I miss anyone else that would like to speak? All right. Thank you all.
Can I ask you one question?
Or you can. I already get. Listen.
Question.
It's been a tradition by the town board to have 30 minutes of public comment. We entertain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 speakers. I'm proud that we do that. We value your opinion. We can't have an all-night dialogue back and forth. And I have to be consistent about allowing people equal opportunity to speak because I can't value one person's opinion more than
You
another.
don't think this is important enough to make an exception, Fred?
Question.
So we are going to move on to our regular meeting now. I'd like to remind everyone that Green and Clean is fast approaching. We will be on April 18th, April 19th, April 25th, April 26th. We will be having residents are invited to come to town clerk's office, sign up with your neighbors. Will be given bags. When you get those bags, you can go into your neighborhood and collect debris off the side of the road. The town transfer station will come and collect those bags.
What was the date?
It's going to be, this is on our website too. It's going to be 4/18, 4/19. That's the weekend. And then the following weekend, 4/25 and 4/26. So any collections that take place on those days, Monday and Tuesday, the town transfer station will come by and collect the debris that you put inside the bag. The bags are available at the town clerk's office, and when you get your bag, you'll sign up for the road that you want to take responsibility for cleaning.
And then they pick it up, is that?
They'll pick it up, correct? Yep. All right, so thank you all. That'll be our opportunity to celebrate Earth Day. I'll ask for approval of minutes, pre-board meeting 3/4/26, town board meeting of 3/4/26, budget workshop of 3/4/26, public hearing of 3/4/26, maintenance of Knox boxes in all commercial and non-residential multifamily dwellings, and structures for emergency services. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bassler. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. As for approval of bills, general fund, $262,355.53. General outside village, $19,087.92. Highway, $95,973.52. Capital projects, $162,510.10. Ambulance district, $139,734.42. Lighting district, $7,449.87. Sewer operation and maintenance, $14,376.90. Water operation and maintenance, $201,744.83. Central Hudson, $52,484.85. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Start with department reports. Who's that? Mr. Hansel?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Mr. Mueller?
Thank you. This week we started changing some gears. Hopefully the snow is done. We're going to start on yard cleanups tomorrow. We're going to start sending out 3 full crews in different areas of the town to start cleanup. Every area have a machine with it, a truck with it, and 4 men. There'll be a sweeper. The sweeper's been out all week. There'll be a sweeper out on the roads that don't need vacuum. Our vac truck is being worked on right now. Once it gets back, we're expecting it to be back tomorrow or the next day. Then we'll start going out with the vac truck also. If anyone feels that we didn't get to them, please give us time to get around the whole town. This is a big town. There's a lot of properties. We didn't have a lot of damage until we got the big snowstorm when we had to start pushing back the snowbanks. I've been here going on 5 years. We did very minimal cleanup in the winter. After the winter, this year we have a tremendous amount of cleanup due to that big storm when we had to start pushing snow back. We also pushed lawns back. I ask if we skipped anybody accidentally, please call the office. We have a list about that big. Your name will go on the list and we will definitely get to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jervis, welcome back.
Thank you. With the harshness of the winter and the snow that Ray just mentioned, a lot of our work tasks that we had laid out in early December, we didn't get a chance to complete. One that was sorely needed that we did was along Court Drive. The entire drainage ditch needed to be redug out, redone, and there was a lot of vegetation, both primary and secondary, that needed to be removed. So that is done. It's going to help with the drainage off of Keeley Field and that area there. And it made a neighbor who was very irate very happy. We were able to dig all the necessary lines and pipes for the emergency backup generator, for the ice arena chiller, all the necessary concrete work for the generator pad and associated concrete was completed, along with the fence posts that were set for the fencing, the 9-gauge fencing that will encompass that area. The emergency backup generator ordered last fall from the second grant for Building A, the concrete structure. We are now expecting to arrive in 12 to 14 weeks, which is a much better time frame than what we were told when we ordered it last fall. A number of our trees in the complex needed to be raised and pruned. We were able to get to about 50% of those, and several dead ones were removed. And this year, as we try to keep in a habit of replacing 2 trees for every one that we cut, we're going to obviously continue with that. In regards to the 2 grants we received for J.C. Field, Ray hauled in 350 tons of item 4 for the new base for the basketball court. The 2 existing steel stanchions have been removed. We had a sinkhole on the side of the basketball court, which we couldn't figure out what the reason was. Ray was down there, John Boy, Mark. There is no pipe. We did an exploratory down to 4 feet on, I believe it was Monday, and we really found nothing. So that's now has been compacted or backfilled with item 4 and compacted, because obviously if there was a dead rotting tree or a pipe that was leaking, we'd want to address that before the new basketball court got installed. We've also now decided to raise the elevation of the basketball court just to facilitate surface drainage, as opposed to digging down 12 inches and coming up to the native elevation. I think that's going to help. There's several trees that are in bad shape. 2 white pines in proximity to the basketball court, about 100 feet tall. Dave's Tree Service, along with us, is going to be removing those tomorrow. And we started today removing the brush and vegetation to accommodate the new playground and the shifting of the new ball field. The cracks and the fractures on the tennis courts here at the complex that I mentioned last year, they only got worse over this winter. We met with one company today who's going to be giving us an estimate. We've reached out to 2 others. One who Mark has tried going back to last November has promised to come and give us an estimate, but that still hasn't happened. Our Toro Multi-Pro 1750 heavy-duty workman, we hope to finally see next month. That was ordered last year. That was the piece of machinery budgeted in 2025 that we rolled to 2026. So the large area mower that was originally budgeted will have to be put on the back burner. Normally at this meeting here, I give a report of the department's finances for 2025. When Gary and I had conversation on Monday, as you know, the year has not yet been closed out, and we have some encumbrance figures that we have to make sure we jive. And then one closing note, I want to thank Mr. Hansel. We had a very large hockey tournament this past weekend, and the disrespectful individuals that use the ladies' room, that flush things that shouldn't be flushed, backed everything up, and Mr. Hansel got right on the phone to Daryl, I believe. Yep. And within less than an hour, the truck was here and pumped everything out, and everything went smoothly. So again, thank you for that. But here again, it's another show of the municipal cooperation and how Mr. Hansel jumped right on that, because it was quite a mess. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief?
Yeah, so last week, in conjunction working with Ulster County Civil Service, we held a police officer physical agility test at Cantine Field. Since the November police officer exam, no agency in Ulster County has been able to hire full-time officers until the physical agility is done. With the severity of the winter, they have not been able to do that. They typically use Dean Stadium track to do it. So we were able to do it last Friday at Cantine Field. So Greg and his crew were great, helping us shut down Cantine and getting that exam done. So that's one of the results, one of the motions that I've asked for tonight is one of the results of that test, hiring one individual full-time. And I just got word this morning about the ability to hire a second. So I'll talk to you about that for the next board meeting.
Very good.
We're just wrapping up this week, DWI enforcement training for some officers in the Saugerties Police Department. And we're conducting that training for our guys and girls as well as in some neighboring departments. And then next week starts our first phase of our in-service training. It'll last for 3 days per officer, and then it'll continue, pick up and get back and forth.
Very good. Staffing, where do we land now?
Staffing, full staff is 25. We are at 20 right now. Hopefully it's 21 after tonight. 22 next month, as long as all goes well. And I've had an uptick in applications, so I have 8 interviews scheduled for next week.
Ah, okay, good. The first time in a few years.
Yes.
To get there. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to board committee reports. Mr. Barr?
Yeah, the Conservation Advisory Committee is looking for a volunteer coordinator for the Climate Smart Task Force. They're developing a position description, which we can hopefully use to recruit somebody to do that job and interface with the Hudson Valley Regional Coordinator for Climate, for the clean environment and coordinated services. They're also finalizing their draft best white paper. I'm sorry the people who asked about that have left, but at least they will provide some input to the board on battery energy storage systems. The library board has been approached by the New York State Department of Transportation about beginning a bike borrowing program. They would supply the bicycles There's discussion going on about that, whether that's feasible and how it would work. And there's an upcoming history of the Saugerties Library. Actually, there's a Saugerties Library Appreciation Day coming up on April 17th. It will bring together community members, library supporters, local leaders to learn about the history of the Saugerties Library and discuss important roles libraries provide to the community. That'd be a good day for us.
It's a good day. Thank you. Mr. Thornton?
Okay, at last week's TV23 committee meeting, the job description for the program director position has been updated. This will be a position that will be advertised on the town website, where, you know, if you're looking for what positions might be available, it'll say TV23 program director. It's a part-time position, pays $25 an hour. You can go to the link, which should be up by this weekend, where you can actually download an application. You may also pick up an application at Mrs. Stanley's office or at the tax collector's office. They'll have printed copies of the job description there also. So we're hoping that we get a number of applicants to basically step into the position that was vacated by the retirement of Mrs. Redmond. So check the town website. I mean, Mr. Campbell has done a phenomenal job as far as getting kind of a new look to the website. And there's a lot of information out there, a lot of community service groups posting what's going on the website also. So, you know, if you're looking for things that are going on in the town, definitely take advantage of it. The STAC committee meeting, our next meeting for STAC will be April 14th at 6:30. And the splash pad project, the next big event is the Brooks Barbecue, which is going to be Thursday, May 21st. There'll be information on Facebook and the town website about tickets and where you could get them. And then looking ahead, July 3rd, there'll be a food truck festival at Cantine Field. And also this year, along with the food trucks, there will be crab vendors also. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Bassler?
The Historic Preservation Commission met on Monday. It's a really active group, and their meeting celebrated, importantly, the last meeting that Susan Peretz was attending as a member of the commission, having served for, I understand, 25 years, and contributing an unparalleled amount of work to the documentation and celebration of the history of Saugerties, and so she will be missed. And we also had the opportunity to welcome some interest in additional service on the commission, which will be discussed, and to potentially replace the vacancy that Susan's departure creates, and that'll be discussed and potentially come up at an upcoming town board meeting. The commission recognized the Finger Ground Cemetery with its designation as a local historic landmark. If you have had the opportunity to visit, it's really, or could make the opportunity to visit, it's in Mount Marion, and it's really a wonderful local historic resource with some remarkable resting places of Revolutionary War veterans, I think numbering around a dozen, and the nonprofit volunteer group Gravestone Guardians put a tremendous amount of work into the restoration of the cemetery over the past 6 months or so, and transformed it from an overgrown, forgotten piece of property to one that is appropriately restored and honoring the remains that are there. So if you have a chance to visit, it's really wonderful. And we have the ongoing coordination of the events for this summer for the 250th anniversary of our nation, along with the Saugerties Historical Society and the town historian working on some events to celebrate the history of Saugerties along with the history, the birth of our nation. We have meetings coming up for the Comprehensive Planning Committee on March 26th. The Arts Commission will be meeting on March 23rd, and the Housing Advisory Commission is meeting on April 6th. And you can find all those on the town calendar.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, move on to motions and resolutions. Ms. Bassler?
I move to reappoint Stefan Yarbeck to the Historic Preservation Commission with a 4-year term to expire on March 31st, 2030.
Second.
Discussion. Stefan's been a tremendous resource and dedicated to celebrating Saugerties history, and the loss of Susan is significant. Her years of dedication and her work on the Stonehouse Story and other projects really celebrated our history in a meaningful way. And we're grateful and look forward to continuing to do that with Stefan's leadership. Any further discussion? Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Bassler?
Yes.
I vote yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proclamations as were filed regarding the 2026 Saugerties Sports Hall of Fame inductees. All inductees get a proclamation with the same language. They are Kevin Beaver, Bob Francello, Shane Geisler, posthumously, Lars Hauk, and Ruben Mendo.
Second, discussion. Very talented group of young athletes. Each one of them has a tremendous legacy of athleticism and leadership and mentoring for young folks too. So it's always a great time of year to celebrate this. Greg has been part of this for many, many years. And today he made another announcement. President Modio is going to get a President Award.
Yes, that's given out by the president.
Yep.
He makes the president, and Brendan's going to get the presidency.
And that's exciting too, so appropriate addition
Yes.
to that list. All right, any other discussion? Mr. Park?
Yes.
Mrs. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Bassler?
Yes.
I vote yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve adding Trade Masters owner John Cosides, P.O. Box 490, High Falls, New York 12440 914-388-0206, or john@trademasters.com, to be added to the town of Saugerties Energy Code Compliance Inspectors List. Mr. Cosides has supplied all necessary paperwork.
Second, discussion. The regular followers, they know part of completing a new construction project, either a large addition or a new building, is to make sure that the building envelope meets the code compliance standards. Mr. Cosides has presented his credentials that make him eligible for a project developer to use them to certify that those standards have been met. Any further discussion? Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Bassler?
Yes.
I vote yes. I'd like to make a motion to do a budget adjustment from the 2025 budget to the 2026 budget from line item A00.3-3120.101 in the amount of $53,160 to line item A00.3-3120.424 for the purchase of an 2026 F-150 police responder pickup truck that was ordered on state bid as per the recommendation of the chief of police. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Chief's here. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure. This is just a police rated vehicle. It happens to be a pickup truck that we were talking about and we were going to purchase last year from in-stock equipment at Romeo Ford. Right before the purchase, that became unavailable. There was another guarantee of its delivery in December. That didn't happen, and then there was a discussion for January. We're here in March. It's supposed to be here before the month is over with. Since we tried to get this back from an in-stock in November, Romeo's agreed to keep that price in order for 2026. So instead of having a 2025, we're getting a 2026 pickup, which is a little bit more than that on state bid for below state bid pricing.
Very good. And talking about the purpose for a pickup truck a little bit, I mean, it's always extraordinary to me to see how much equipment we put in a police car now. The laptop.
We do it, and outside the cab of the truck, or outside the cab of any vehicle. This truck is 4 doors, so it's still going to operate like a standard police vehicle does, where it has your officers in the front and a prisoner partition in the back. That's going to operate the same with, mobile terminals in the front and other equipment. The back, typically we use either Chargers, which have been discontinued, or Durangos lately. Both of those, the rear of that SUV or the rear of the truck, right, is completely filled with equipment. That same equipment will be put inside secured and locked storage cabinets in the bottom of the truck bed, and the top will allow to be used to carry for smaller events, maybe some of our barricades, or move some of our speed signs, some equipment back and forth that we now rely on the village, DPW, Parks and Recreation, or Highway to come along with the truck and help us with.
The deployment of the speed signs has become a critical component of our ability to monitor speed throughout the town.
And sometimes it's troublesome to organize the officer when they're available, because they do that on shift and supplement calls, so they can only do it when they're free, and organize that with maybe, say, one of Greg's guys.
But this truck also, you know how you have unmarked police cars, like, is this gonna be an unmarked truck?
No, this is a marked vehicle.
So you don't need me anymore. Good.
For the small events. For the small events.
Yeah, 4th of July, we're gonna need you.
Yeah, I mean, we have, 40, 50 barricades. This will be able to move maybe a dozen of them because of the other equipment that's in it.
I had the chance to talk to Fred about this a little bit today, just with a few of the questions that, he's helped me out with, in terms of need and other options, and you were helpful in your emails, in the past couple days in answering questions. I hope we can keep the option of EVs alive and maybe understand the operational considerations. They're not necessarily a slam dunk, but if there are incentives that come back into play, other kind of synergies in terms of electrification projects, then the vehicle fleet would be a nice place to continue to see some alignment there with electrification townwide.
I believe there is some ability to utilize electric, maybe not entirely. Some of our fleet runs consistently, so I can't have the downtime. But in a good portion of the fleet, I believe there's some space for electric. I have looked at it, I have been looking at grants for that. Improving the building, which is where I'd have to rely on Greg, in order to provide enough chargers for those cars, would be required to do that. And then the upfront cost is significantly higher for an electric vehicle than it would be for the combustion ones. However, I've looked at now is a 7-year plan in which our vehicles are rotated on. Over the course of 7 years, right now the way it looks to be cheaper at the end of that 7-year term. It's just whether we want to put out the initial upfront cost.
Yeah, maybe even better now with gas prices, what they are.
You never know. Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. Thornton?
Yes.
Ms. Bosworth?
Yes.
I vote yes.
Motion to allow the chief of police to sign the equipment loan agreement between the county of Ulster and the town of Saugerties as on file in regards to the loan of the police equipment such as breath test equipment, LiDARs, and radar units.
Second.
Discussion? Chief, want to add anything?
This is predominantly for the radar units and the LiDAR unit that are on loan from Stop DUI in Ulster County. So every year they ask us to renew that agreement that we have these specific models with serial numbers just as an inventory.
Very good. Any further discussion? Mr. Barr?
Yes?
Ms. Thornton?
Yes.
Ms. Bassler?
Yes.
I vote yes.
I'd like to make a motion to move James Jarman from a part-time MEO position to a full-time laborer's position to fill a vacancy in the highway department at a rate of pay of $29.84 per hour effective March 19th, 2026, as per the recommendation of Ray Myone, Highway Superintendent.
Second.
Discussion. Ray, I'd like you to share some thoughts that I know he's been working on the snow crews and helping in part-time help during the summer, and certainly this
I think he'd be a big asset to the highway. His career was trees, with Lewis Trees. So we're gonna pick up a lot of talent with him. He climbs trees if necessary. And he's been with us a couple of years now, part-time, plowing. He has his own plow route, and we never have any complaints. We never have to go back, check on him. He's handy. We're doing masonry work, in catch basins and stuff, so I think he will be a good asset to the department.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Barr?
Yes?
Mrs. Thornton?
Yes.
Ms. Bassler?
Yes.
I vote yes.
I'd like to make a motion to move part-time police officer Christopher Collins to a full-time position at step 6 per the collective bargaining agreement with the PBA effective March 23rd, 2026.
Second. Chief, want to talk about Chris a little bit?
Sure. Chris Collins comes to us from the state police. I would like to have hired him last year. We were waiting for the fit test to come through. He had to take that. He took that on Friday. So now we have the ability to hire him. While he's been working for us part-time, he's been working a significant number of hours. We sent him to the training officer school because he hasn't experienced with the state previously. And he has been one of our finest field trainers. And his attention to detail and planning out the learning process for new officers is phenomenal.
And the experience he brought is pretty extraordinary too. Knows how to handle a call and reach out to people and communicate. He's been a tremendous asset, so I'm excited for the opportunity to make him full-time. Any further discussion? Mr. Barr?
Yes?
Mrs. Thornton?
Yes.
Ms. Bassler?
Yes.
I vote yes. All right, do we miss anything? I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. I want to ask everyone to share a moment of silence with all of us on behalf of Paul Donlin. Paul Donlin, his family is obviously the Donlin family, the Medal of Honor winner. Roger Donlin was his younger brother. Paul was he was a decorated military veteran as well, served proudly, and we're all better off for knowing and getting an opportunity to spend time with him, and I mean that sincerely. He's just an absolute gentleman, a great personality, loved to laugh, and really thoughtful in remembrance of other people. And he was a treasure for our community, so I want to just share a brief moment of silence in his memory. And please do that.
To be 100.
He did make 100. And we had the opportunity to celebrate that day with him, and pretty special moment. Yeah. All right, please join us in a brief moment of silence. All right, that's it. Our next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. Our pre-board meeting will be at 6:30 p.m. Our town board meeting will be at 7 p.m. All those in favor of adjournment say aye. Any opposed? Meeting's over. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for being patient this evening.